Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again. As always, thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Cheers to those of you that have your beers. Today we're going to talk about the best starter pack for a mechanic. So if you're just now getting into automotive, or you want to be a mechanic, or that's your goal is to be a mechanic, but you're not really sure where to start, there's so many different tool sets out there. There's so many different brand names out there and things like that. But today we're going to talk about one particular set that I feel is like the best starter set for a mechanic. Then we're going to cover some other tools in what I like to call like an entry-level tool basic kind of a thing that you should also have with you in your arsenal. Now I'm sure there's going to be other tools that I may not cover in this video, and for those of you watching, you can feel free to share those comments down below. Make sure you put in any kind of tools that I might have missed that you feel are perfect for the starter mechanic. But I'm just going to cover some of the entry-level tool basic knowledge platform, and I'm going to show you guys what I feel is like the perfect starter set and some other tools you might want to add to that. So with that being said, let's roll right into it. Let me show you an awesome tool set that you can purchase today for under $200. Let's check it out. Alright, so at first look, yes, it is a Cobalt. I picked this up from Lowe's earlier this afternoon. This is a 100-piece mechanics tool set. The reason why I chose this tool set is because of the various types of tools that it has made me full-heartedly believe that this is the perfect set if you're just starting off in automotive. If you're just starting out as a mechanic, this is the perfect set to have. Let me show you a few tools that it comes with, and maybe you'll agree with me. Let's open it up. So right here at first glance you can see that it comes with some linesman pliers. And yes, that's actually what Cobalt is calling them. Love that grip. That grip's nice. So it's got some linesman pliers. Put those back in there. 6-inch diagonal pliers. Or dikes, whatever you want to call them. Awesome. You need those. Need those. Long nose pliers. Or needle nose, depending on where you come from. A pry bar. Ha! Just kidding. It's a really long flathead, but how many of us have used a really long flathead as a prying tool? Am I right? At any rate, that's pretty cool. It's a 10-inch flathead, so you can definitely use and abuse that guy. Comes with a 1/4-inch ratchet, a 3/8 ratchet. Oh, heck yeah. This was worth the price alone. How many of us been working outside of our garage and we're like, where's my lighter? I need a beer bottle opener. Bam! Right there on site. Perfect. Especially if you're having yourself a nice Heineken. Awesome. Love that. Really cool little gimmick that they threw in there. 4-piece pick set to include hook, 90, straight, and curve. They also give you a free sticker. So that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to change the camera angle so you guys can see the top of this thing. Alright, as you can see, it comes with metric and standard, deep and shallow sockets, and 1 3/8 universal joint. And that's actually pretty nice. I don't know how long that would last over time and if it would loosen up, but it feels pretty stiff. Feels like that would work out really well. You're going to end up needing that. If you ever run into a situation where it just flops down too easily, what I do is I just take a little bit of electrical tape and wrap it around the joint. That holds everything together and makes it a little bit stiffer. So just a little tip. At any rate, let's look at the sockets. Okay, for deeps, looks like they give you some 12 points here. And for the shallows, looks like they give you some 6 points. So that's one thing that I noticed with even the Harbor Freight sockets. If you try to buy them on their own, deep and shallow, some reason or another somebody thought it'd be a good idea to do 12 points in deep and 6 points in shallow. It is what it is. Look, you are going to run into situations where you do need a 12 point. You're going to run into situations where you wish you had a 6 point. At least they give you both. Would have been nice if they would have kept it complete 6-point set and then would have given you the option to buy 12 points later on down the road. But it is what it is. But overall, really happy with how many sockets you get here. Now, what sizes they cover? For SAE, they cover 5/16 all the way up to 7/8, which is awesome. And for metric, looks like they cover 10mm all the way through 19 on the deeps and 8mm all the way through 19 on the shallows. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the next drawer. Alright, so opening up drawer number 1, they give you a complete wrench set. Covers 8mm through 19mm, and for SAE, 1/4 inch through 5/8. Would have been nicer if they would have covered a little bit more sizes in the SAE, but I understand why they only covered up to a certain point. SAE is just not as common on more modern vehicles. Modern vehicles are now using pretty much all metric, so you're not going to run into a lot of SAE. Ergo, I think this is a perfect wrench set here. So they do offer the 5-degree offset, 12-point box end with an open end. We're going to check out the fitment of these wrenches a little bit later on. The drawers do come all the way out, so if you have a toolbox, you can use these as organizers. Now you got yourself a free wrench organizer if you don't want to carry it in the carrying case that it comes with. Or if you're a mobile mechanic or you want to go to the scrap yard and get some scrap parts, perfect set to have with you. Alright, let's go into the next drawer, drawer number 2. In this drawer, they give you a series of Torx drivers, and they are the safety Torx, but you can use them for both in a pinch if you need to. I have used safety Torx before on a Torx Fastener. I have not had any problem with them breaking or rounding. So ergo, even though it has a little hollowed hole for the safety feature, they still come in handy. You can still use them for either one. I think it's really cool that they actually come with Torx drivers, because I actually have the Matco set and I love using them, especially when it comes to, like, you know, tail lights, taking off a tail light to change a light bulb. So that's pretty cool. So it comes with some Torx drivers there, and of course they give you some Phillips. Looks like you got a number 1, and then they give you a number 1 or 3/16 flathead, and then up here at the top they give you a number 2 with a long shank. So that's really good. Gets down into hard to reach spots. Love these handles. And they give you a 1/4 inch by 8 inch flathead. So I actually like that. It's actually fairly skinny flathead, so you might even be able to use that for stubborn connectors and whatnot. So that's really cool. And then the rest cover T10, T27, T15, T25, T20, and T30. T30, T20 are going to be your most common sizes, maybe even T15. So you will use these Torx drivers for sure. Even cooler that they gave you the safety ones, so that way in case you run into that, you can use them. So let's go into drawer number 3 now. Drawer number 3 is going to cover pretty much all of our big dogs. Our big dog flatheads. Like this one right here, 3/8 by 8 inch. Pretty heavy duty. And you know what I like too? They got a hex design like Snap-on has. So if you absolutely needed to put a wrench behind that for leverage to crack something loose, you totally could. Personally never ran into a situation where I needed to use that feature, but it's pretty awesome that they started incorporating that feature on their screwdrivers. So I dig that. Number 3 Phillips. Looks like you get another number 2 with a shorter shank, another 1/4 inch flathead, 6 inch. Yeah, they got just a variety of screwdrivers here. It's really super awesome screwdriver and Torx driver set. Love that. All right, let's go into the last drawer. Last drawer is going to cover, oh yeah, look at that. Got a pair of slip joint pliers, and yes, that's exactly what they call them. These things are actually really nice. Small, but you know, nice all the same to have them. Put those back in here. They give you an awl, so I guess if you ever needed to scribe something, or you know, poke a hole in something, I guess you could. I don't know what that I would use that for. They also give you what's called a tack puller. I don't know about tack puller. That's pretty nice, small and convenient trim tool. If you're just trying to take off some small trim, like around the radio to change out a stereo or something like that, that might be actually a pretty nice trim tool to have. So I thought that was pretty awesome that it came with that. They give you what they call groove joint pliers. You guys know I call them channel locks. It is what it is. But that's pretty nice. They give you a set of those. They also give you 3 different size crescent wrenches or adjustable wrenches, whatever tickles your fancy there. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, loving that grip. It's got a nice handle grip on the end of it. So that is pretty cool. Alright, so before we get into some of the other tools that I would recommend, let's take a look at the fitment of some of these sockets and wrenches on a bolt. Alright, so getting into fasteners. What I got here is a 5/8 fastener and a 5/8 nut, and I've crushed it down with the vise. In fact, let me make sure that's good and tight. Let me get a hammer. Alright, can you guys see pretty good? Yeah, you can see pretty good. Alright, let me try to tighten this thing up a little more. So that that's in there snug. So I got a 5/8 wrench. We're going to check the fitment of this wrench to the fastener, and we're also going to check out the 5/8 6-point socket on their ratchet and see how I feel about it. So let's just check it out. So let me get it down, snug down a little bit. Fitment wise, a little bit of slop, but you know what? It still bites in where it needs to. Let me try to zoom in on top of the bolt so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Alright, so if you see here, there's ever such a slight amount of play in this 5/8 box end wrench. Just a little bit, but you know what? It still bites down pretty darn good. So I'm going to tighten up this vise. Let me just pull this tight with my hand. Let me go hand tight with it. So that's pretty decent amount of pressure that I'm putting behind there. Doesn't appear to be affecting the inside of the quality of the wrench whatsoever. Now I'm going to use the open end portion of the wrench to loosen it up. So overall, my opinion, pretty good quality wrench. Let's take a look at the socket. Alright, so same 5/8 bolt, same 5/8 socket. I kind of like what they did on the inside of the corners of the socket here. Laser etching is really nice. Broaching, a little deep for my taste, but let's see. So pretty deep broach, so in case you have a partial part of a stud followed by a nut, that might actually get down there and get that. Don't know, remains to be seen. But yeah, overall I feel like the quality of the socket's pretty good. Not a lot of play, just a little bit. I think that that will still do its job. Let's take it to the vise. Before we do, so 90-tooth ratchet, 3/8 cobalt, that's what we'll be using. It looks like it has this locking ability there for the socket. Seems pretty duty. Rotating feature, let's see. So just the opposite of what I would really expect. Kind of reminds me of that Harbor Freight style ratchet, which not a big deal to some people. Me, I just prefer the more commonly used ratchet, where this is tightened and this is loosened. But you know what? Not really a big deal. If you're not a fan of change like myself, might be a big deal. You might not ever use these ratchets and you might trade them out for something else. But if you're on the go, it's whatever, man. If I'm on the go and I got to take this toolkit with me, I'll get over it real fast, because I'd rather fix it and save the day than not be able to fix it because of my arrogance or ignorance or whatever. All right, so let's go ahead, put it on the fastener and check it out. All right, so back to our 5/8 fastener over here with the ratchet and socket. Let's see where we're at. At this point, I'm set up to, let's see, that's be loosening it. So this will be tightening. Let's try to tighten it down, just to get an idea of how it feels. I feel like that can really put in some work. Nothing affected by it on the inside Would have liked to have had a little bit longer of a handle for more leverage, but you know what? That'll get the job done right there. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at a few other tools that might be handy for you to have in your arsenal if you're just starting off as a mechanic, or you're doing stuff at the house and you're a beginner and you might have wonder what other tools can I possibly get that would help make my life easier than whatever's inside of this starter toolkit. I'm going to show you a few things that I'd recommend every starting mechanic have, at least to some certain extent, okay? All these things can be purchased over time. You don't have to rush out and buy them. This starter kit will get a lot of stuff done for you, but there are some tools that you might want to have just for those weird, tricky situations. Let's take a look at a few. Alright, so let's take a look at a few tools that you might want to have in your arsenal if you're a beginning mechanic or starting mechanic. Some things that are really going to help you out when repairing your car or even just trying to lightly diagnose various issues. First one up, speaking to my mechanics out there, not so much my diagnosticians, you might want to have a set of these. Flex head ratcheting wrenches are going to just be a huge beneficial to you in the automotive profession. These are all Pittsburghs, and I think you could pick this whole setup for like under 20 bucks. So they're awesome, they ratchet really well, really like them. Okay, another tool that is going to come in handy for you, and you are going to need to know a little bit of light diagnostics, or at least some light testing to be able to figure out if a component is good or bad, is going to be a test light. Pick this up for under 20 bucks off of Amazon, made by OTC. Super awesome tool to have. You're definitely going to want to have one of those in the arsenal as well. That being said, we're going to do one more light item for diagnostic testing purposes, a DVOM. It can be any DVOM really. I mean, I've seen people use the ones from Harbor Freight. I just prefer my Klein. I think for the value, it works out well for me, and many others would probably agree with you. So, DVOM, gonna need one of those. If you're just starting off as a lube tech or working at Sears Auto Center, or maybe you just started at a dealership as a lube tech, eventually you're gonna have to take off a drive belt. You're gonna want one of these serpentine belt toolkits. This one happens to be made by Gear Wrench. I know on the box it says KD Tools, but it's Gear Wrench on the inside. Those of you that can read that, the part number might actually be there too. This thing works out really great. Another huge benefit to having this specific serpentine belt toolkit is not only do you get some pass-through socket ability, so if you're working on stubborn shocks, to be able to remove some of those, you know, where they have a little Allen key, and you're like, oh man, that you just try to turn that fastener and you can't. Well, you get a pass-through option here with this ratchet portion, and you can put the Allen key on top to hold the shock in place while you rotate the nut off. So that can be a huge benefit there. Also, it does come with 3 crow's feet, 13, 14, and 15. And if you've been working on domestic or even Asian cars, you're going to know those are some pretty common sizes of crow's feet that you're going to run into that you're going to need. So, pretty ingenious toolkit to have. Definitely a must-have for any starting tech or mechanic. Next tool up, and I don't have the big one with me today, just a hammer. I know this is a brass hammer, probably a really terrible example, but it's a small dead blow, works really well, but you're going to need some kind of hammer. 4-pound sludge hammer will be cool, 16-ounce hammer of some kind. I believe this is a 16-ounce brass hammer. It works, you know, just as good as the steel ones that I had. I know it's made of softer metal, so less likely to do damage to certain things when you're hitting with this than a steel hammer, but just some kind of hammer. You're going to need a hammer. Obviously, it didn't come with the toolkit. A couple other things that did not come in the toolkit that you would need over time, for sure, right out the gate. How about some 1/2-inch sockets? Didn't see any 1/2-inch sockets in that kit whatsoever. You can get away with a solid shallow and deep metric socket set. Really no need for SAE unless you're working on heavy-duty diesel equipment or something like that. For your basic automotive stuff, you're going to need some 1/2-inch sockets. This cut goes from 10 to 19 in a deep and shallow set. So, going to need some 1/2-inch at some point. That being said, you might need some leverage. Give me enough leverage and I can move the world. How about a 1/2-inch breaker bar of some kind? Now you can get it all fancy and get a ratchet kind, but a breaker bar will work just fine. You're gonna need one. Bless me. All right, another thing you're gonna need, didn't come in the kit. Cobalt does sell them though. How about some kind of pry bars? They got a nice pry bar set down. I think it's like a 4-piece set. If you don't like those pry bars and you want to get a little bit crazy with it, they do make these indexing style pry bars, and Gear Wrench does sell these, and these can actually come in handy for some pretty tricky stuff. But you're gonna need some pry bars of some kind. Next thing up, this is kind of a 2-part thing. You're gonna need some kind of vice grip or locking clamp pliers or whatever. But you're gonna need something like this, because hood struts do fail all the time, and you can actually grab the hood strut, lock it in place, that way the hood doesn't close on top of your head while you're performing some kind of service. If you don't want to do that because somebody said that's a no-no and you're going to damage the strut's already damaged, it's broken, doesn't work anymore, you're not going to do any more damage using those than you are something else. Something similar to this, some kind of hood prop tool. Now this is a hood prop tool, it's like a baton. It extends out for as long as you need it to hold the hood up. And that'll just keep it off the top of your dome so you don't get hammered in the head. Another item that's going to be really handy for you to have, especially if you're doing brakes. And I know this is kind of a shade tree tool, but yes, it's still utilized by most shops today. Some kind of C-clamp to be able to retract single caliper pistons in with. So you might need some kind of C-clamp. Now granted, there are special tools that you can use to compress the pistons back into the caliper with that are specifically made for that, brake tool wise. But in a pinch, shade tree mechanic's going to tell you, give me a C-clamp, and you'll have it and you'll be able to get the job done. Some of them require a specialty tool set that we'll talk about later down the road. Something else that you're going to need that didn't exactly come in that toolkit, you're going to need some kind of spark plug socket. This happens to be 5/8, which happens to be the most common spark plug socket, but you might run into situations where you need 3/4 inch, 9/16, 18 millimeter, whatever. You're going to need some spark plug sockets though, especially if you're doing tune-ups. So that didn't come in the kit. I know their 223-piece set did, but they were missing a few tools, which is why I still feel that the 100-piece kit is the best starter kit. Also, some kind of oil filter wrench removal tool. These are swivel grip. These are awesome. They got some nice grips on the inside that grab the canister, and it's just awesome. I love these things. I use this one right here for my Chevy. I use the bigger one for Dodge Ram. Awesome to have. A couple other things you might want to have, especially if you're doing tune-ups, is some kind of feeler gauge to be able to gap your plugs. So that's going to come in handy. So if you're doing tune-ups, you might want to get a feeler gauge. I know a lot of these newer spark plugs are supposed to be, you don't have to worry about setting the gap, but there are some spark plugs that do still require you to verify that the gap has been set. Otherwise, you get a misfire, and you're wondering where it came from. You just did the tune-up, always go back to where you were last at. So make sure your plugs are gapped. If you live in some kind of rusty state, or a state that has a lot of rust, you might want to get yourself one of these. Nice little blue torch, or the blue wrench, or whatever you want to call it. This thing is awesome, dude. Just heat up those fasteners, spray some PP Blaster on it, heat it up again, spray some PP Blaster on it, and eventually you'll work all the chemical through, and it'll just eat away that rust, and it'll swell that nut up and shrink it down, and then you should be able to crack it loose, no problem. But always keep one of those in handy. The last two things I didn't really cover till the end because they're kind of no-brainers, but it is what it is. Some people still don't know about them. You're going to need a pin because information is key, and when you need some information, whether it's mileage or torque specs, you're going to want some kind of pin. Other than that, you might want one of these, where it's a mini pocket flathead with a magnet on the other side. Magnet will help you pick up little fasteners that you dropped, maybe even a socket, and then the mini flathead will help you with a lot of different things. Ask any mechanic. That's pretty much all I got for today's video, guys. I hope this helps out some of the beginner mechanics or beginner techs out there. Maybe it helps some of my DIYers that are out there looking for a perfect tool set to start off with. Or maybe you just got some old beat up tools that you're ready to be done with, selling a garage sale, and pick up something nice that's going to be a somewhat complete kit. This kit's pretty dope. I give it a 2 thumbs up for sure. They got a lot of nice pieces in there, and it comes in $169.99 or something like that. So just under, really, 180 bucks after tax if you're in a taxable state. But hey, what a nice tool set for under 200 bucks. 170 bucks, not bad in my book. I'd rather start off with that than start off with nothing. And you don't have to buy the most expensive stuff in order to get the job done. Sometimes over the course of many, many years of doing it, it pays off to have some nicer quality stuff, but you don't need it. You can get by with just the basic tools that we listed off in this video. If there are other tools that you think should have been added to this list that maybe I didn't cover or throw in there, please feel free to leave it down in the comments so that way our beginner guys or DIYers know what to look for. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure to hit the thumbs up if you like this video, the thumbs down if you didn't like this video, share if you want to share it, and cheers to those of you that have your beers. We'll see you next time.